As unreal as it feels to say this, it is now August 2025 and generative AI is somehow not the most cutting edge tech currently. Yes, that's right, move aside generative AI because Agentic AI is where the collective future of the AI world is headed. So here's a promise, by the end of this video, you'll have a strong knowledge of what Agentic AI is, how to get started with developing as well as learning about Agentic AI apps, and also how to upskill to break into jobs in this field, even without any prior SDE or machine learning experience.
My hot take is Python is not the language for applied AI engineering. It is actually TypeScript.
For somebody that's just trying to get started with developing for Agentic AI, what would be some of the resources that you can recommend or a decent first couple steps?
Honestly, Gen AI is a thing of the past, just for me personally.
What you just said is probably the hottest take of them all. I'm Naman Pandey, this is the Ready Set Do podcast, and in this episode, my guest is Meri Nova. Meri is one of the biggest ML/AI engineer creators on LinkedIn in the world, and through her content has helped hundreds, if not thousands of aspirants land their dream roles. With her company Break Into Data, she is now laser focused on coaching for Agentic AI, whose flagship Bootcamp has 2 successful graduating cohorts with a third one starting this August. There's literally dozens of success stories out here, and I think it might behoove you to check it out for yourself.
With coding agents, again, you can build things so much faster. You just need to have this framework of how to build. So that's what we give.
Where does it stop? It stops at your imagination.
Vercels AI SDK, that's the most popular in production besides just LangGraph 2. If you focus on building with those 2 libraries, then I'm sure you can land some interviews.
In line with our theme of learning from high agency individuals who are just a few steps ahead, my goal with this episode is to help anyone looking to break into Agentic AI roles or folks who would like to build solutions or companies using Agentic AI. Subscribe on YouTube and any of your favorite podcast apps for weekly episodes featuring high agency individuals as well as daily clips from those episodes on YouTube and Instagram. And now, without any further ado, here's Meri. Welcome to the only podcast in the world featuring stories of high agency individuals who are just a few steps ahead of us. Meri, welcome.
Hi, thank you for having me, Naman.
You've been so vocal for so many years now about AI development, and I know you've helped hundreds, if not thousands of people break into AI, and just so involved with all of the coaching that you do on LinkedIn. When you're involved so deeply with a certain topic or field, you naturally begin to develop what just comes from disagreeability, right? Just hot takes around a certain topic where you're like, yeah, most people think this is true, but you can just kind of disagree. And as is now tradition on this show, I would love to open with, what is your hot take on development, especially around AI, that you really, feel super strongly about?
Yeah, I love how you're starting strong with the great question. So I guess the first thing that comes to my mind is, how the entire AI engineering community thinks that Python is the main language, especially coming from like machine learning background and people just training models with Python. That's just became ingrained in us. But just recently, after I guess I wouldn't say when ChatGPT got released, but like earlier this year when we started our AI engineering bootcamp, I realized that there's a big gap between real world AI engineering and what we see on social media, like on LinkedIn, especially with demo projects and on YouTube. So my hot take is Python is not the language for applied AI engineering. It is actually TypeScript. And you have and coming from a data science background, in the beginning, I was like, I don't want to learn another language. I just want to. Python is so simple and great. I didn't want to accept that either. But after talking with the real world engineers, especially living in the area and looking at open source projects and where things are headed, it's basically it's all going to web applications, and web applications are built on top of TypeScript. So
TypeScript, yeah.
I think that would be my hot take.
Fascinating. So just to double click on the piece that you said about the difference between what the pet projects are, right, that go viral on YouTube or on LinkedIn, and just the difference between them and real world projects. Could you share a little bit more about in what ways these differ for our listeners that might be curious?
Yeah, sure. It's funny, but just like looking at new coding agents and like new coding AI assistants, I feel like it's become so much easier to build not only demos but really actual applications. And things that worked 2 years ago, 3 years ago are just so behind right now because we have so many tools like AI assisted coding tools that can 10x our entire workflow and make us build things. So coming from that, I would say before, how especially going back to Python, everybody just like build things and use Streamlit to show it. But nowadays it's yeah, you gotta you gotta understand that majority of the web applications are built on not on Python. And I would say the difference between them is just it's a lot. It's a lot of just infrastructure. It's a lot of back end stuff that demos don't have, and that's what we actually teach. So for people who do not have full stack engineering experience, I think it's the best time to learn that. So that's the difference.
Amazing. And obviously, I know a huge chunk of our agenda today is obviously to talk about agentic AI, right? Agent engineering when it comes to AI. So, just as somebody that is semi involved in this space, right? I'm not as hands on as some of your peers might be, or that you obviously are. And I know a lot of my listeners also kind of are on that fence a little bit, where they have a decent understanding of what it entails. But when you ask them to elaborate on some things, that's when like the cracks start to appear. So I'm curious to pick your brain to kind of lead us into this water, which is and really the question here is how would you describe agentic engineering or agentic AI to a person that's maybe, they understand how machine learning algorithms work, they understand like the basic statistics, foundational models, and all of that. But yeah, could you kind of intro, for lack of a better word, agentic AI to us, and maybe you could also touch on why this is so important and why this is the future towards which we are headed.
Yeah, 100%. It's a great question. So you can look at agents from so many perspectives, but I want to share from my own, which comes from the open source field and also startups. Because again, because of my close proximity to the YC here and just the early stage startups here, I was naturally just exposed to the evolution of Gen AI, especially when ChatGPT came out. Things became very different, and I remember just going back and 2022, early 2023, there were so many hackathons back then, and nobody would talk about agentic AI. It was all about Gen AI. It was all about creating those ChatGPT wrappers. There's just like the chat UI, and that's it. But few of those hackathons, especially like very like applied ML oriented. There were people that are trying to create agents early on, and people think 2025 is the year of agents. But honestly, all the engineers that were into LLMs, they were already, I would say, prototyping and coming up with ways how we can allow LLMs interact with the web. So I remember having like seen projects that where people build like browser agents where it would do things for you. Of course, it wouldn't work all the time, and I still remember those projects actually that are now bigger, that how they look like in the inception. But going back to your question on agentic AI, it's basically an evolution from Gen AI, where it's passive generation of tokens, but nowadays it's acting upon them. So that's why whatever somebody describes agents, they usually have things like tools and memory and context, which is a big thing now. There's a context engineering instead of prompt engineering. So yeah, I think that's very important to understand because 80% of investments that go into AI nowadays, it's agents. It's all around agentic AI, not so much Gen AI. So yeah.
That's super helpful. From what I've gathered and from like the conversations that I've had, it can be super overwhelming to figure out like how do you get into this, right? Because as soon as you try to build something, there's a new model, there's a new thing, and suddenly you're somehow 6 months behind, right? So, for somebody that's just trying to get started with developing for agentic AI, what would be some of maybe the resources that you can recommend, or yeah, what are like a decent first couple steps according to you for somebody that's looking to get into this domain now in as of recording this in July 2025?
Sure. I guess it's important to differentiate between like getting started and breaking into the field because those two are completely different. So getting started could be just playing around with the frameworks. That's why I only recommend this if you want to play around and not really. But if you're like serious about getting into the field, I would always suggest just again going back to the TypeScript field, where you use things like Vercel's AI SDK. That's the most popular in production besides just LangGraph too. LangGraph is another popular production agentic framework, and those two, if you focus on building with those two libraries, then I'm sure you can land some interviews. But if you want to just play around and understand how agents work in your terminal, then probably just using OpenAI Agent SDK is a great start. They have very simple abstractions that you can build with. Uh, yeah, I guess that would be.
Makes sense. And then, but the recommendation is still that if you're trying to get those interviews, you have to have good, solid projects on your resume, right? That showcase that you actually have built something, and just knowing theory isn't enough.
Yeah, 1000%.
Would you agree with?
You know, I actually, like before when I was writing on LinkedIn, only a year ago, I would be like, okay, study linear algebra, study neural networks. That was my go-to like roadmap for AI.
Yeah.
But then after launching the bootcamp and launching the company where we help people get jobs in applied AI engineering, I realized, oh my gosh, this advice is so outdated. And we have people who are joining like after master's program, they do have their data science masters or computer science masters, and they're learning all of those things at school, but they're not landing in interviews. And I thought, and then I'm like, okay, I have to stop advising people learning theory because it's not getting you anywhere. Uh, Instead, what worked for our students is actually building projects. So our entire bootcamp is all about delivering this capstone project on top of smaller projects that you do on a weekly basis. But the final thing that we require you to like get a certificate is creating end-to-end capstone project that uses all the tech stack that we recommend.
That's really incredible. So yeah, I would love to double click on the bootcamp piece and kind of what it entails. But before we do that, I'm also curious to have you shared a little bit about break into data, right? That's obviously your company. Really just looking for just kind of what kind of work you've been doing. Any success stories? Because I love listening to those. Just makes me really happy. So yeah, just kind of curious about what you can share about the work that you've been doing with break into data.
Yeah, thank you for asking that question. Actually, just 2 days ago, we had a graduation day on our
Okay.
second cohort.
Okay.
Yeah, and just looking at the graduation day, what we do is just we demo all of their projects, and
Nice.
that's when I feel most proud of our team because I we have an instructor also. His name is Hai, and we have few TAs that have been incredible. They're also helping students, and just looking at the that we okay. Here's the thing. I just remembered. Oh, we have few people that have zero coding experience and
Really?
zero. Yeah, zero software engineering experience, not even data science. So they're just joining because they want to build things, but using things like Bolt or Lovable is just not enough. It's not going to cut it if you are serious about getting a job in the field. So looking at their projects, oh my gosh, I even have a screenshot in front of me from the graduation. But looking at their project,
And feel free to share that if you'd like, if at all that's something you could, that would be great. But sorry, please continue. Didn't mean to
but
cut
I
you off.
share it with you and you could put it on top.
Okay, yeah, that works. That works as well. Yep. Please continue. Yeah.
Yeah, but I looked at their projects and people were sharing like, "Oh my god, I now have more confidence in building things end to end because even though we have these AI coding assistants, you still need those fundamentals of like what a web application consists of. What do you need so that it works consistently with your users?" And that's a lot of components, and that's what we do at the bootcamp. Where every single day there's like a live coding session instead of a lecture. Every day we have a live
Really?
coding session. Yes, and our instructor just shares his screen and builds things from scratch. And he also talks out loud as he builds things. So like people can understand what behind the I guess the senior engineer's screen, that's what we thought would make the most impact and it did. because people are now not afraid because people think, oh my gosh, I have to know everything. And if I don't know what this error means, or if I don't know how to do this thing, then I cannot move forward, which is such a blocker because with coding agents, again, you can build things so much faster. You just need to have this framework of how to build. So that's what we give. And after that, all I hear is, okay, I'm ready to build. I want to build so many more projects because I know I can understand and can follow through. And it just makes my heart full, honestly. But
That
yes.
sounds incredible. Wow, I'm honestly a little tempted to, you know, check it out and go back to some of my coding roots that I have, so to speak, abandoned. Even though I'm just being hyperbolic for no reason. Um, but I am curious about something that you said that kind of, I want to double click on, which is that you said tools like Bolt and Lovable, just projects built off of them, are not going to be enough. Do you mind sharing why you think that? I understand like probably the core basis of that, which is that if you're building something really intricate that works with a lot of models and such, it's probably not even being it won't even be able to do all of that configuration for you, right? So that's what I'm getting at, or that's what I'm picking up. Is that accurate, or do you have a separate reason why you said that?
Yeah, that too, but also when I think about Lovable and Bolt, and those are, for me, it's they're helping you generate your personal tools, or helping you generate simple websites and
Right, like
things.
boilerplate stuff.
Yes, yeah, boilerplate. And there's levels, right? There's levels to AI coding assistance. I was thinking actually the other day when I was at the gym, how can I describe the different levels of AI coding assistance? And I think the closest thing that I came up with was there are three levels. You know how in the engineering team there's usually like a junior engineer, there is a mid-level engineer, there's a senior engineer, and all of them have different scopes of what they can do. And same goes with the coding assistance that is on the same level as like Lovable and Bolt. And then there's Cursor, and then there's Claude Code. For the reason why I describe it is Lovable is like a junior engineer. You can allow it to build like a few pages, like a simple website, simple UI, connected with the database. That's it, deploy it. Awesome. That's what junior engineer can do. And then the mid engineer is like Cursor. It can work on a more complicated things. It can even deliver features on its own and things like that. And then the third one is like Cloud Code that has context of the entire code base, how it interacts with each other, and what are the main components, and the architecture and everything. So the reason why I said Lovable is not enough is because if you want to advance in this career, then I would rather you use things like Cursor and Cloud Code, because
Mm.
that's when you can learn more. Actually, if you don't have any experience, then it's the best way to learn through building with those tools.
That makes a lot of sense, and I'm really glad I asked because I was very close to bucketing all of Bolt, Lovable, Cursor, and Claude Code under the same umbrella, which obviously is wrong, and that's not what you were implying at all. So yeah, I'm actually really glad I clarified that because that would have been a head scratcher for a few folks. And I guess just to close the loop on that, so you're saying if somebody, I guess, firstly has enough money and also has the interest to pin up like a more complex agentic project using Claude Code, is that something you would recommend, or would your recommendation still be that no, build it yourself, right? Actually, try to learn rather than just trying to hack to the final product. Does that make sense?
Yeah. Yeah, I think this question relates to engineering approach.
Mm,
So,
yeah.
you know how, like, again, many people come to break into data with the zero full stack engineering experience, and they don't really know how to ship in a way that engineering teams do. And what we realized worked for us is teaching people how to ship in slices. It's I think I forgot the name of the company that first came up with this approach, but it's not agile, it's not waterfall, but it's its own thing. Slices where you build things, not just like, let's say, just front end piece of it that works on its own, and then you build back end, but more like a cake where you have the both front end and back end, and then you just have a slice of it delivered.
So that's really cool. And then in terms of the bootcamp intensiveness, I guess, for those who are considering joining that, what can you share about like how intensive is it? Like how many hours, roughly how long do the cohorts last? And yeah, I guess just in terms of time investment, how are we looking?
Yeah, so our cohort lasts 6 weeks on average, and we meet every day. So we have two phases. We've been experimenting on what works the best so far. So far, we realized that we need to upfront all the theory so that people have a better understanding of what technology is capable of, like what are agents, how to create RAG agents, how to create memory, how to create all those main components in the beginning, and that's in phase one. And then phase two starts in 2 weeks, so like it lasts 4 weeks. And that's when you build, and that's when we have live coding sessions daily, where you join the instructor.
Secret engineer, yeah.
Yeah. And then you just watch him do it, and then you build it by yourself as well. So that's it. And also on the other day, I mean, on Monday and Wednesday on Friday, what we have is Monday is like the lecture of the week. And then Wednesday is like usually we have real world expert who can help you understand even deeper and how they do things. So we had actually the founders, YC founders, join us. We have people from enterprise join us, and on Friday we have demo days. Or it's but it changes too. So depending on what's going on in the industry. So yeah.
No, absolutely. I think it's clear how much time and effort you've spent into planning all of this, right? And just the incredible results that you're getting. However, when I put myself in the shoes of a listener, I think something that would really benefit them figuring out exactly what it is and if it's right for them is maybe if you can give an example of like a flagship project, or I mean, it doesn't even have to be flagship, but really any project that came out of that. I think that would really help contextualize exactly what you get out of the boot camp.
Yeah, yeah, that we have actually we need to compile it together, but we have 100 students who've graduated so far.
Wow.
And yeah, there's
Awesome. Congrats.
thank you, thank you. And we I think we have at least those, not everybody finishes, of course, but
Yes.
yeah, but we have around 60 or 70 projects that we will put on the wall. So yeah, we were planning to share it. But oh, I just remembered you asked about the wins, right? Few of our graduates already got jobs, landed jobs, and they were able to show the projects and talk about the bootcamp as well and the interviews. And because there's such a huge demand for people who work with agents, I think this is just perfect for their job search too. So
Definitely agree with that last piece. I feel like, honestly, anywhere I look at this point, I think it's, yeah. I know you said that it's not actually a 2025 thing. This has been quietly simmering in the shadows for a while now. But from my perspective, right, which is very much that of an outsider, it does really feel like it's really picking up steam right about now. So, yeah, I think your point on right now being a good time to dive in, definitely holds true. Continuing, I am curious to kind of pick your brain around all of the mentorship work that you do, right? All of the coaching that you do personally. I know most of it is related to break into data, but some of it is not. And you've been doing this for such a long time now that one of like the most commonly asked questions that my audience requests is, especially from people like you that have mentored thousands of students, what are some common pitfalls that you see again and again? It's they're like most of them are kind of easily avoidable, but you still see a huge chunk of the population face, be it just, aspirants into agentic AI, or we can even think more broadly just from, breaking into data type domain as well. So, any patterns that you've seen emerge around low hanging fruits that can be, well, poisonous fruits, I guess, that can be avoided, but that most people are unable to avoid?
so interesting. For some reason, when you asked that question, the first thing that came to my mind is confidence.
Wow.
The reason why I say it is because when I would talk to people from my community, especially like for some reason we have so many master graduates, and I guess it makes sense because they're all trying to get jobs and they have all the credentials, but for some reason nothing's going on. And partly it was because of the job market, but the reason why I said confidence is because many people just don't believe in themselves enough to reach out to people and to network, because networking can is it's probably the only way to to land your first position,
Yeah.
honestly.
Yeah.
And many people might disagree because yes, the cold calling, I mean, cold applying would work too these days. But if you want to work at startups, let's say, because that's what we specialize in, and that's what I always recommend people who do not have experience in US is start working with startups because they don't have the rigorous like interview rounds that enterprise has, and they also mostly think through like your projects and like how you can actually solve problems and looking at your portfolio. So that's what I always recommend newcomers to focus on, just your own confidence, and so that you can start networking with people. And yeah, I think that I mean, few examples is, for instance,
Mm-hmm.
I when I was in Indonesia the last year, I was networking also, and some people said, I just landed a full stack engineering position with zero experience and zero knowledge in software engineering. I was like, how did you even,
Yeah.
like, why? What are you doing?
Exactly. What's going on here? Yeah.
Are you lying or what? Yeah. And then he's like, no, because I believe that learning happens when you get paid, when you have something to lose, you know? And I'm like, okay, that's very bold and interesting. And I wish like more of us had this mindset of, okay, you can learn on the job. It's just a matter of getting the job and having confidence in yourself that you can do it.
But like, did you also ask them how they got the job in the first place without any experience? Because does that work? Yeah, I'm curious.
I think they just like, again, outreach on LinkedIn. They were just like talking to like hundreds of people online.
Yeah.
But thing, yeah.
No, I mean, that's such a good call out because it really shows just how far one can get, right? Just off of the backs of um directed intentional networking, I think is probably the right way to put it. Instead of just, the spray and pray approach with, yeah, it does work sometimes, but I think your point is well taken on. Yeah, just be more intentional, right? Have a plan, stick to a plan, and hopefully good things will follow. Um, Up next, I think I would be remiss to not bring up just generative AI engineering, given how much we've talked about agentic AI. I know you mentioned at the beginning of this conversation that one kind of started off from the other, like agentic AI is almost the next step to generative AI engineering. So, but for those people that are more just concerned about trying to build for Gen AI, what are maybe some core principles? Do most of the approaches still track, or is that kind of a different roadmap when it comes to Gen AI engineering?
Wow. I mean, these days, like for me, honestly, Gen AI just like is a thing of the past. Just for me personally.
Really? Oh,
Yeah, but it doesn't mean it's the same for everyone else. Because don't get me wrong, there are so many people that are gonna pay lots of money for you to build the great RAG pipelines, you know, that it's still very much in high demand. It's just I like to honestly follow whatever's the latest thing. And I think agentic AI is just very exciting because even in the open source community, we have new protocols like MCP. We have new tools that are coming out that are agentic, and I think it's just exciting to see that. But Gen AI is still there, but it's just I think yeah, I don't. Much rather talk about traditional machine learning than Gen AI, I guess.
I respect it. No, I respect it. And it's so fascinating for me to listen to that, to what you just said, right? As somebody that, as I said, is a little bit more on the periphery of these things and is not as deeply involved or as hands on. Yeah, I think that's just, and I would probably guess that for most of the general population, what you just said is probably the hottest take of them all, right? So, yeah, no, that's very,
Why do
very
you say that? I'm curious. Why?
I just think, yeah, I think it's a simple answer, right? I just think that developments in AI lag people that are actually in AI by, and I'm just coming up with this number out of thin air, but at least 6 months is what I've seen. Like even when Bolt and Lovable first became a thing, and I was weirdly like still early on those trains. Like I actually built stuff at a time where none of like my peers were. And again, this is important to highlight. My peers or my peer circle or professional circle is very different from yours because we are more, it is what it is. Oh, great. There's a new article. There's a new model. good to know, right? Life goes on. Versus you, who's like, okay, now let's use this to build something, right? Let's tinker with it. Let's figure out what it's good at, what it's not as good as, so on and so forth, right? And yeah, I just think because of that lag, really, for most people, I think by the time they even get up to date with the latest development, that development is now 6 weeks too late. And like there's like five new things, and they're just like, it's not even worth my while to, follow this actually. So that's just why I say that, because I still feel like for most of the, I don't know, normies, I guess, Gen AI is still very much the cutting edge, right? Oh, it can talk to me, oh, it can generate images, it does Ghibli art. Cool, right? Let's go crazy. So again, I might be off there, but that's just been my anecdotal experience with my social circles and such. So, which is why I think it's so interesting what you said, that you're like, nope, don't care. It's a thing of the past. It's a fossil. It's a dinosaur.
I mean, now that you say it, actually, it makes sense because we have like multimodality is exciting.
Yeah.
Right? And that it's just because I'm not in that space. When I saw VO3, I think that's the name, I was like, oh my god, this is insane. And even on social media, you can see all these AI generated videos. And funny enough, actually, one of my friend's founders, he had a B2B SaaS before all this Gen AI hype.
Yeah.
And now what he does is he created an agentic sales platform. And he also built like a persona online and on TikTok. And he was generating videos with AI for like a year now. And he has, I think, over 250,000 followers on TikTok. And he never filmed himself ever. It was just his tea generating with AI. And guess what? He's using this channel to promote his agent
Yep.
stuff. So that's insane where we're headed. I think they definitely underestimating. Probably I need to get into that too.
No, no, I think you're good because you're at the peak, right? Like, why would you scale back down? And
I mean, content. It's great for content.
well, that's true. That's true, I guess. But also on the flip side of the content piece as well, if you're early with content on Agentic AI at a time where no one else is doing that, I think there is very much such thing as early movers advantage when it comes to content as well, for sure. So, yeah, no, I think your approach makes total sense. And going off of the story you shared about the founder, I think yeah, it's crazy how that's become like now the playbook, right? Cluely does it. I know Cluely probably has, I think it was 8 million or something that's just dedicated towards TikTok, right? Nothing else. They're just literally burning millions of dollars
Wow.
just to get, yeah, funnel views through. They have, I think, like 30 different accounts, and all of them kind of do
Wow.
different things. Yeah, there was like a whole case study on this, which was, yeah, very interesting. I'll link that below for our listeners. But yeah, apparently this is just the norm now, which is, yeah, pretty incredible. And as you were saying that also, I think once you start to marry concepts of agentic AI with multimodal engineering, I think that's just the portal to a new universe, pretty much, right? Like there's
Yes.
just, where does it stop? It stops at your imagination. So
Yeah, exactly. It's the best playground of our lifetime.
indeed, and it's just still such fertile soil still, right? To, for somebody that's looking to get into this, somebody that's looking to, make a name for themselves or start a company. And yeah, I just truly, I feel so blessed being able to have conversations like these, pick the brains of smart people such as yourself. And yeah, hopefully I can use this as an opportunity to probably start getting a little bit more involved. um Truth be told, I'll definitely be checking out the bootcamp. That is definitely something that has piqued my curiosity. I do think might be something there for me, so I'll keep you posted on, how that goes or what I find. But don't be surprised, I guess, if you find a new member on your next
Oh
cohort.
my God, yes. Let me know. We'll hook you up
Yeah.
with some discounts
Okay, awesome.
for the
Appreciate
community
that.
too. Yeah.
Appreciate that. And yeah, really, I think that was pretty much everything I wanted to cover here today. Any final pieces of advice or anything you want to put out there in the ether for anybody listening that you would want to share? Honestly, it can be anything. It doesn't even have to be about AI.
Yeah, yeah. No, this was I just want to say now when you have a knack for podcasts, this has been such a pleasure. Thank you for having me. But and like for the last thing that I wanted to say when you were talking about the playground and all the excitement around this field. I just I have these like conversations in my own head naturally, where I think about how these days this one characteristics can actually define your career, your next 10 years, and especially it's important nowadays is basically having adaptability. So when I say adaptability is you're not really, so let's say if you're just a newcomer to the field, because this field is still very much young, you have such a great advantage to just become very adaptable to whatever is going on now. And by adaptable, I mean trying out tools that come out just now, just yesterday, and writing about this, and maybe just like exploring and building new different projects, implementing things that nobody has implemented, and it's very much doable too. It's not hard anymore. Like
Right.
people got used to like the things that it's actually you need to like sweat it out, you need to like, yes, there's a components of like debugging and just being persistent at things, but things become easier, things are becoming so much easier, and now the mode is to become adaptable. So
Mm.
however fast you can adapt, that could define your nearest future. So I think that's what people need to do, is to become more adaptable to change.
I love that call out, especially because, just an anecdotal story that comes to mind. So, one of my peers or one of my mentees, actually, that I helped, he was really struggling with granted, he was into product management. So, he was really looking for core, like, I don't know what's like the right term, but traditional PM jobs, I suppose would be the right way to say it. And he did that for about 3 4 months, wasn't really getting anywhere. And I was just like, have you considered that there's now an entire new domain for AI PMs, right? Like product managers that understand how AI works, how machine learning algorithms work. And he did have a background in tech. So I was like, is that something that you might consider? And he was like, I don't know, I've never thought about that, but sure, let's do that. And yeah, like, in a couple of weeks, he was able to find an AI PM position.
Wow.
And really, and he called me to like thank me and such, and I was like, well, you're welcome. But I don't think that was anything like groundbreaking. But yeah, I think I love what you said, because just having an open mind, right? Just being adaptable, kind of figuring out where the wind's going, where the benefits are, where the utilities are, and then just going that way. It feels super obvious to say, but actually to do it is not as obvious. So yeah, I love that you said that, and definitely needs to be said way, way, way more. So, but yeah, thank you so much for taking the time here today. Thank you so much for adding so much value in so many lives over on LinkedIn. And I know it's just been crazy following your journey, and now with your company break into data and such. I'm really excited to see what else you're up to. And yeah, it's been such a pleasure following your journey. And yeah, hopefully we'll remain connected, and hopefully you'll come back with one of your new boot camps. I know you'll be like right at the knife's edge of this stuff, so I know I can trust you to open the doors for the normies, as I like to say.
Yeah, 100%. Now, just let me know, and I would love to. I would love to share whatever we have, especially for the community. If they want to join, we're gonna offer special discounts for you.
Amazing.
Yeah, but I had a pleasure today. Actually, I think you're onto something. Keep doing this. I'm excited to come back too.
Appreciate it. That brings us to the end of that fascinating episode with Meri Nova. Thank you all for sharing these conversations with those that continue to benefit from them. If you would like to support me, the easiest way to do that is by subscribing on YouTube and leaving me up to a 5-star rating on Spotify or any of your favorite podcast apps. Something that really moves the needle for me is if you share these episodes with a friend or family or anybody that might listen, or by word of mouth, tell them about your new favorite podcast. Catch you all in the next one, new episodes every Wednesday.